Welcome to round one of the Harry Potter February tournament. Up top we have Nikki, and on bottom we have Justin. Nick is playing a Marauder tribal deck. So tribal decks are a new type of deck kind of popping up, and the point is for him to play as many Marauder cards as possible, and it really relies on the events that are Marauder to do a lot of damage. Whereas Justin is playing an Arthur Broken Item deck. Justin loves this deck, has brought it to many tournaments, keeps refining it and adding cards, taking out cards, and just becoming even better at actually playing it. He's already fantastic at playing it. He did very well in the last tournament. I believe he actually won one of them with it, so I'm excited to see what he does with this tournament. So Nick starts with a Charms and a Transfiguration lesson. The Marauder cards are typically in those two colors, as well as some Care of Magical Creatures, but the Charms and the Transfiguration are really the main two. Justin's deck is playing mostly Transfiguration and Potions. Broken Item is in Transfiguration, so he needs that to play Broken Item. And then there's a lot of Potion items that can just help, so having that pair is really going to work well with Arthur. Nick plays I Solemnly Swear, so he'll discard 3 cards from his hand to ramp 2 lessons from his deck. A quick reminder, Harry Young Marauder is Nick's starter, and that allows him to once per game search his deck for events and put them into his hand, and then for the rest of that turn, events do not require power that matches. So he could play a Potions event without having any Potions power, as long as he has the requisite amount of power in play. Where Justin's starter, Arthur Weasley, allows him to use an action to do damage to an opponent equal to the printed power cost of that item in play. So Justin has just played his first item, which is a Holiday with Hags, a Potions book that will let him play 2 Potion lessons from his discard pile. Nick throws out a Cedric Diggory. Cedric allows that player once per game to discard their hand and draw a new hand of 6 cards. So this is a great way for Nick to refill his hand after playing I Solemnly Swear. So Justin plays another book, and those books are nice because they do provide 1 power. So it's like playing a lesson that has an upside, that's just an item as opposed to a lesson. So a little more susceptible to other kinds of removal, but does give him the benefit of some additional ability. And Justin plays Hermione's Time Turner, which allows him to essentially ramp lessons and then discard lessons to go find unique cards in his deck. I think he may be using it more for finding or to putting lessons into play. And this is great because you can put a lesson into play, I believe, before your turn, and then you don't have to use actions to play as many lessons, so you can use those actions for other things. Time Turner is just a really great card. It is a unique card, so Nick will not be able to play one. So Nick plays a lesson and gets up to that 6 power, and 6 power is kind of the starting point for where Nick wants to be for the rest of his deck to really get rolling. And we see that with the first event that he has played, which is the Marauder's Legacy. This will essentially make any Marauder character he plays cost 1 less action, and then all of his Marauder cards with a printed power cost 3 less power. This essentially lets Nick play his 9 cost event, which is Confronting Black, and that is kind of the backbone of the deck. It will do repeated damage every turn. So Nick is able to play that with just 6 power if the Marauder's Legacy is in play. Looks like Justin removes some of Nick's stuff in play using Stairs into Slides. Great move on Justin's part just to get rid of that card. Nick plays a Borrowed Wand. Really great move there. Borrowed Wand is essentially a card that just provides 2 power. You can only have 1 of them in play, so that does kind of suck, but it does provide 2 power, so it's a lesson that provides 2, which is just great. And it looks like Nick is going to use his starting character, Harry Young Marauder. Again, This allows Nick to search his deck for events, put them into his hand, and then those events don't require power that matches to play for the rest of that turn. And it looks like Nick is going to grab the Marauder's Legacy since Justin removed his last one. And Justin has Broken Item out. So Broken Item is great because you can choose one of your items in play, and then Broken Item essentially costs less, equal to that item's printed power cost. So Hermione's Time Turner costs 5, so that means Broken Item would cost 7. The downside is that you have to discard the item that is reducing Broken Item's cost. So it's a way to kind of cheat it out and get it out a tad earlier than normal, because 12 cost is quite high to get out. So at this point, Nick has his entire board set up with Confronting Black and with the Marauder's Legacy. Confronting Black is going to start doing a lot of damage, and Justin is set up with Broken Item to just repeatedly hit Nick for 12 damage every turn. Justin does play another Stare into Slides. That was a really great card for Justin to add to his deck, and it is just taking out Nick's cards with printed power costs, which is really holding off a large chunk of the damage. And at this point, Justin has hit Nick at least once, if not twice, with Broken Item using Arthur, which is just fantastic. So Nick is down to 12 cards in deck. If he can't do something about this, Justin is going to do 12 damage on his next turn, and then Nick would draw 1, and that would deck out Nick. So we'll see if anything else can happen, but otherwise I think Justin has game 1 in the bag. And that looks like it is game 1, and game 1 goes to Justin and Arthur and Broken Item. So he was able to get out the Broken Item, just really focused on playing those lessons, Hermione's Time Turner, and then reducing the cost of Broken Item, and then just hitting Nick with that Broken Item for 12 damage every turn. Very effective. In a matter of 3, maybe 4 turns, that Broken Item can do 36 or 48 damage, and that is just a lot of damage for Nick to have to take. Nick was able to get some of his pieces out, but needed to wait until his next turn for their effects to start triggering, which just meant that he wasn't able to do anything because Justin was able to remove those pieces and just really protect himself. We'll see when these two players sideboard, if Nick puts in something to just maybe protect his events a little bit, or prevent Justin from playing spells, or maybe even something like a Table Trouble to get rid of Justin's items. Whereas we're going to see if Justin's going to sideboard something that can deal with Nick's events on a more regular basis, like Filch Hogwarts Caretaker, or if he's going to pretty much keep his deck the same and maybe just swap out 1 or 2 cards. So we'll see what these two players do in game 2. Okay, so we have game 2 started. Nick goes first because he lost the first game, and he starts just like last time with 2 lessons, and it looks like Justin is going to start the same way as well as last time. So the game is starting out the same way. Let's see if these two players can do something a little bit different. So we have Nick playing a Charms lesson, and then I believe he is playing Sirius's Letter. So this is a Marauder item that allows him to draw a card after he searches his deck. He may or may not be using this depending on how much search he actually has. We do know that he has I Solemnly Swear, so he has some kind of search, but really this is a card that will work with Confronting Black to add 1 more damage if Nick can get that card to stick. We do see Nick has a Table Trouble in hand. He likely sideboarded that after game 1 to deal with the items that he's playing against. And he plays I Solemnly Swear, similar to last game again, so discarding 3 cards from hand, and he's going to go get 2 lessons from his deck, put them directly into play, and then Sirius's Letter should trigger, and Nick should draw a card based on that search. So Nick went and grabbed 2 fetch lessons, and then drew a card from Sirius's letter as well as action 2. And those fetch lessons are nice because they're going to let Nick essentially thin his deck a little bit, and just get rid of some dead draws that may be lessons, because after a point, Nick doesn't need more lessons. He needs the events, he needs the Marauder cards, there's other things he needs. So these fetch lessons are going to be fantastic. Justin has played a Self-Stirring Cauldron, so he has to discard 2 potion lessons when he plays it, but then it does give him back another action when he plays it, so that's fantastic. He plays a Hermione's Time Turner again, so this is great because if he does have lessons in hand, he'll be playing them before his turn. So he's kind of set up well. That Self-Stirring Cauldron also provides 4 potion power, so that brings him up to 6 power. And we saw last game that when Justin had 7 power in play, he discarded the Time Turner and played Broken Item. So if he can get 1 more lesson in play for free, potentially, with Hermione's Time Turner, he could lesson, and then action 1, play Broken Item, discarding Time Turner, and then hit Nick for 12 with Time Turner and Arthur. We'll see if he ends up doing that. Looks like Nick just drew a couple of cards for turn, for a couple of actions. So it looks like Nick is going to use his starting character to search his deck, grab an event, and put it into his hand. I think he already used his 2 actions to draw cards. So I'm not sure why he's using Harry now. Not that the second part of Harry's effect matters that much, because the second part just lets events not have to match the power in play. And from what we've seen, it doesn't appear that Nick has anything except for Transfiguration and Charms events, but that free search by Harry is nice. So yep, he searches for, it looks like the Marauder's Legacy, adds it to his hand, and then passes turn to Justin. So it looks like Justin is just drawing cards. He must not have any lessons. Or it looks like he played 1 lesson and then is just drawing some cards. He probably doesn't have the Broken Item if he didn't play it just then. 1 table trouble from Nick can really ruin Justin right now, because 4 of Justin's potion power as well as the Time Turner are both items, and table trouble would just get rid of both of those. So Nick has Mooney in play, and Mooney is a creature character card, so it does have both card types attached to it. And essentially, Mooney is going to have an effect that lets Nick take cards from his opponent's discard pile and put them on the bottom of that deck. Essentially a way to kind of prohibit your opponent from being able to recur cards easily. Mooney is great though, because on top of that, it's a colorless card that does do 3 damage a turn and has 3 health because it is a creature. So we saw Justin take 3 damage at the beginning of Nick's turn, and this is essentially because there's a character creature. It's a new combination of card types that we have. It does count as both a character and a creature, so if somebody played a card that discarded characters, they could choose Mooney and discard it. Similarly, if they played a card that discarded creatures or did damage to creatures, they could choose Mooney and discard it as well. So Mooney is great because it's colorless, it has 2 card types, it can do a lot of stuff, but it is more susceptible to getting hit by different cards and getting removed from play. So Nick is getting closer and closer to that 9 power for confronting black. He doesn't need to get up that high, but if he does get up that high, then having the Legacy event in play doesn't matter quite as much. And it looks like Nick does play a Table Trouble, which gets rid of Self-Stirring Cauldron, as well as the Time Turner, 2 items that were really fueling Justin's game plan. So he's going to have to rebuild here a little bit and figure out how he can come back from this. After so many turns to just have 3 power on the board, that is a bit rough. So Justin plays the first Triwizard Tournament. This is a new adventure from the Adventures at from the Hogwarts History set that came out recently. And essentially, the first Triwizard Tournament makes it so your opponent's cards that don't have a printed power cost more to play, particularly non-lessons. So it's not going to make your lessons cost more. So characters now cost one more action, so usually 3. Adventures would cost 3 as well, unless there's some other reduction that a person has in play. So this is a solid card to just prevent Nick from playing a Cedric Diggory again, or from playing Sirius Black, or Wormtail, or anything else that is going to add to the count for the tribal deck that Nick is playing. Nick can solve the first Triwizard Tournament by skipping 4 actions. Not sure that he wants to skip actions right now. Granted, he doesn't have in his hand Confronting Black, the event that will do damage, so he could skip a couple of actions, but I also don't know how necessary it is for Nick to play another character right now, so we'll wait and see what he does. So Justin is just going to get a bit of power into play, so that potion lesson, and then the holidays with Hags again, that is another power, so he's got 5 in play. He does need to get up to that 12 power to play Broken Item, unless he has something else to reduce its cost. So he has quite a ways to go. Justin will take 3 damage from Mooney, because again, it's a character creature. And Nick will play Sirius's Letter. I don't actually see I Solemnly Swear Nick's hand, so I'm not sure if he's going to be searching his deck anytime soon, but if he does have that draw card in play. So it looks like Justin is going to use Holidays with Hags and discard it in order to get 2 potions back from his discard pile. While this may not be the most ideal play, it does essentially turn that item into 2 potion lessons. So if Nick has another Table Trouble, which we see he does now, he can't just discard it. So that is good news for Justin. So Justin's going to play another Self-Stirring Cauldron, so this is interesting. Getting rid of that 2 potion power that he just played. Self-Stirring Cauldron again will give him 1 more action this turn, as well as 4 potion power. And then it looks like Justin has passed the turn to Nick. I wonder if Justin drew for that extra action. So overall, Justin is set up next turn to play a Broken Item and then do some damage. Nick is at 21 cards in deck, and it looks like Justin's at 32. So Mooney is doing some work, but Nick has just taken much more damage overall. Justin was probably using Arthur actually to do just some damage to Nick with these lower cost items. Not necessarily ideal, but 4 damage for an action is not the worst case that Justin could be in. There's obviously better things, but that's a way to get through a little bit of damage at a time. And it seems to be working up until this point. Justin is outpacing Nick at least by 10 cards. So Nick is going to play Table Trouble, probably something that Justin was anticipating. It will get rid of Nick's own Sirius Letter because Table Trouble hits all items in play, which includes Nick's. But it does get rid of that Self-Stirring Cauldron, which again is 4 power and 4 repeated damage a turn. Not a bad move on Nick's part. He's really not losing anything by doing this. Justin is going to play another Holiday with Hags. That book just keeps coming up. Great book to just provide power and then get back some potion lessons if Justin does need them. So not a bad move. And it looks like Nick has played the Legacy. So, Confronting Black. So Nick plays Mischief Managed, it looks like, which allows him to choose an opponent's card in play, and during the next turn it loses all abilities and damage per turn. If there's another card in play, which Harry is 1, then Nick gets 1 extra action, so he uses Mischief Manage and then plays Confronting Black, which gets his game plan online. Confronting Black is now going to start doing a ton of damage to Justin every turn. It does damage equal to the number of Marauder cards in play. So it looks like Confronting Black is going to be doing 20 damage a turn. That is a lot for Justin to have to deal with. He's only going to be able to survive 2 turns of that, but it'll be 20 from Confronting Black and another 3 from Mooney, and that is just a lot of damage. So Justin is going to play a Lesson for action 1, a Self-Stirring Cauldron for action 2, and Self-Stirring Cauldron will give him 2 more actions. So Justin is now up to 8 power, and if he chooses Self-Stirring Cauldron, he can play a broken item, but it looks like he just has Arthur do 4 damage to Nick with the with his effect, choosing Self-Stirring Cauldron. So I guess Justin might not have had broken item in hand, so we'll see what he does for his next turn, if he makes it to his next turn. And it looks like that is game. I think Nick won that one with Confronting Black doing 20 damage. I don't know if Justin thought he could have done enough damage overall. He probably didn't have a broken item in hand. If he did, his next turn he could have played it and then hit Nick for 12 and 1. He probably didn't have one, and then it wasn't worth playing out the next turn because Nick just would have won with Confronting Black. So Justin will go first in game 3. It seems that sideboarding went very quickly this game, which is not surprising given that they both know what the other person is doing at this point. Justin is going to play 2 lessons for turn, so this is going to start just like the other games as well. And we have both players just playing some more lessons. Justin just trying to play as many lessons as possible. His board is very weak to a table trouble, so if he can get out more lessons and not have to rely on the items as much, that is going to help him long game. Nick is going to play Sirius's Letter and another Transfiguration lesson. If he plays I Solemnly Swear on his next turn, this is just really setting him up to be able to draw after playing I Solemnly Swear, and that's something he really wants to do. While I Solemnly Swear does get you 2 lessons from your deck, one of the issues with the card is that it costs itself plus 3 more from your hand, and that puts you down 4 cards unless you have something to replace those. That is a big deficit, so Sirius's Letter here really helps to mitigate that just a little bit. So Justin is going to play a Holidays with Hags, and then it looks like he's going to use Arthur to hit Nick for 3 damage with Holidays with Hags. So this could be a good strategy for Justin, just to every turn hit Nick for a little bit of damage. If he doesn't have the cards in hand he needs, or doesn't have the amount of power to play the cards, this is a way to essentially not thin his deck, keep his deck the same since your deck is your life, while still doing damage to his opponent. We'll see if it works long game. Nick plays a Borrowed Wand, so that puts him up to 6 power, and then he uses his starting character, which will allow him to go get an event, and he goes to get the Legacy. So this is great. The Legacy is going to set him up to play that, and then Confronting Black, and then start hitting Justin for a bunch of damage again. So this is a great move by Nick. So we have Justin playing another lesson. He's up to 6 power now, and then it looks like he uses Arthur again to hit Nick for 3 more damage with Holidays with Hags. So he's just chipping away a little bit at a time. While 3 damage may not seem like much, if he can get out a broken item and just even use the ability twice, that's 24 damage, and a little bit of damage before that can really make a big difference. So let's see if this ends up mattering. And there is the legacy. Does Nick still have Confronting Black? It appears Nick does not have Confronting Black in hand. Otherwise, he probably would have played it for action 2. So that saves Justin at least a turn to not have to deal with Confronting Black. And Confronting Black is before each of Nick's turns, so even if Nick plays it, he has to wait for Justin to go, and then it's his turn before Confronting Black is going to start doing a bunch of damage. So Justin thought there for a while, ended up deciding to play a Table Trouble, which will discard 2 lessons from play, 2 potion lessons, and then give him 1 more action. And does provide 4 power, and it looks like Justin is going to play Broken Item, so he will use Self-Stirring Cauldron in order to reduce Broken Item's cost by 4, and Justin had exactly 8 power in play. And then when he plays Broken Item, Justin does get to draw a card, so Broken Item will replace itself, and I think Justin is out of actions for this turn. So he is going to have to wait, I think. Maybe he's not out of actions. I think he's using Holidays with Hags now. So Justin gets 2 potion lessons back from discard. This was a smart move in case Nick does have a Table Trouble. This now essentially allows Justin to have those 2 potion lessons in play, whereas Table Trouble would have discarded the book, and there is Table Trouble. So that gets rid of Justin's Broken Item. It does get rid of Nick's Borrowed Wand, but Nick doesn't really care about that power once Confronting Black is in play. He doesn't need anything more now. So he's set up well. He disrupted Justin's game plan. We'll see what ends up happening next. Justin does need to do something about these 2 events in play. It's going to be hard for him to deal with this repeated damage from Confronting Black if he just lets it sit in play. I believe Confronting Black is doing 8 damage a turn, so that is quite a bit. And Justin's going to try picking on Neville. I'm assuming he's choosing Confronting Black. Nick can prevent it by discarding 2 other cards from play. Nick discards the Legacy as well as the Transfiguration lesson. Good move by Nick to keep that damage card in play. If Justin can discard Confronting Black, though, Nick is really far behind at this point in terms of power. So it'll be interesting to see if Justin has another piece to get rid of that event, or if he's going to move forward his own game plan. So Justin will take, I believe it's 8 damage from Confronting Black, and then Nick's turn will start. Okay, so Nick is going to use 1 action to play a Transfiguration lesson, and then use the second action to play Crookshank's Aid, which allows him to take a non-healing tribal card that fits him with his deck from his discard pile to his hand, and then he's out of actions. So the second part of Crookshank's Aid, where they don't need to have matching power in play, is not necessarily going to matter right now. Justin is going to play one of his favorite cards, which is Basilisk Fang. This is a 6-cost item. When it enters play, you can, I believe, do 2 damage to an opponent or to a creature of your choice, and then you can use an action to discard it to discard an opponent's item from play. Super flexible item. It costs 6 power, and Justin can now use this to hit Nick for 6 damage every turn. But it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle because 6 is not going to be as high as Confronting Black's damage per turn. So Justin really needs to get rid of Confronting Black in some way, or he's just not going to be able to win this game. Nick is going to use I Solemnly Swear, discarding 3 cards from his hand in order to get 2 lessons from his deck. This is going to help add the amount of damage that Confronting Black is doing. So this is a great move by Nick. Gets him the power, increases the damage per turn. All around, really great move. Confronting Black, because of that, is now up to 12 damage a turn. And just incredible move by Nick. And then he does throw out the Legacy, which is a great card as well. Nick doesn't really need it for much more. He could play a couple of characters, I guess, but Confronting Black is really gonna do a bulk of the damage and just run this game. So Justin is going to use an action to choose the Basilisk Fang and be able to play Broken Item, so that reduces items cost by 6. Great move in order to get it out. And then he's going to hit Justin for 12 damage. Now it's a little more on par with Confronting Black. I still don't think that he's going to be able to do enough damage before Nick's Confronting Black does damage, which at this point is now up to 21 because of all of that damage. That brings Justin down to single digits. That is just super low. So Nick is going to get Wormtail from the discard pile, and this is one of Nick's win cons toward the end when the opponent is super low on life. So essentially you play Wormtail, and Wormtail is another character creature, and he gets to play it for 1 action because of the Legacy card, and Wormtail allows you to choose one of your events in play and discard it, and then you do damage to an opponent equal to that item's or equal to that event's printed power cost. So that means 9 more damage to Justin. Really great move by Nick there. So he wins overall 2-1. That was a great game by both players. Those table troubles really screwed over Justin. They really just stopped his deck from doing what it wanted to do. Fascinating to watch that game though. Both of those players are very good at each of those decks. They play them all the time. You saw Nick at the end really know how to use Wormtail well, how to use I Solemnly Swear well, and then you saw Justin know how to use his Self-Stirring Cauldron, his Basilisk Fang, and his Broken Item. Really great game. Good luck to both players in the upcoming rounds, and thank you everybody for watching.